Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday, February 8th, 2021. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and Dr. Do you have any changes?
I do. An HR personnel addendum was added today to item 9.01, and the board has been given a copy.
Any other changes, additions? Dr. Burns, good? Okay, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mathias, did you just want me to state that I'm
Oh, I'm sorry.
home?
Yes, before we begin, Dr. Burns, go right ahead and make your statement.
Yeah, I'm home due to a child with a chronic condition that we're protecting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, approval of minutes.
I recommend approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting January 25th, 2021.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Representation? Who's going to do that, Dr.?
Me.
Oh, okay.
So tonight we had the opportunity to have a resolution to celebrate Black History Month. So I'm going to read the resolution, and then if you have some people sign it, I'd appreciate it. So whereas the month of February is recognized as Black History Month since the Black historian Carter G. Woodson, known as the father of Black history, proposed in 1926 an observance honoring the accomplishments of Black Americans, and whereas in 1976 the observance became recognized and established as Black History Month, and whereas the School Board of Lake County, Florida believes in the merit of education, respects hard work, promotes perseverance and faith in self, and recognizes the importance of understanding the different origins, culture, and heritage of all Americans, and whereas in the past African Americans such as Mary McLeod Bethune, George Washington Carver, Frederick Douglass, Langston Hughes, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Shirley Chisholm, Maya Angelou, and Jackie Robinson have made incredible contributions recognized by all and have inspired the masses, and whereas much recognition is due to those many outstanding African Americans who continue that inspiration and have overcome many obstacles to excel in such fields as education, medicine, sports, human rights, space exploration, government, and religion, including Vice President Kamala Harris, President Barack Obama, Michael Jordan, Colin Powell, Serena Williams, Oprah Winfrey, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Condoleezza Rice. And whereas the School Board of Lake County, Florida is proud to honor, recognize, and pay tribute to local African Americans who've had a tremendous impact on this district and county: Margaret Ward, Virgil Hawkins, William McKinney, Tom Poole, John Christian, Aria Cole, and our own board member Molly Cunningham. And whereas the Lake County schools are encouraged to plan lessons and special activities to recognize the important role African Americans have played in the growth and prosperity of our nation, and to thereby learn from the struggles and accomplishments of others to strengthen the bond we share as a national family. Now, therefore, be it resolved in this resolution of the School Board of Lake County, Florida, that the month of February in the year 2021 be recognized for the celebration of Black History Month in the district schools of Lake County.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? 5-0. Natalie. Now we're about to enter public input, and I'd like to make a statement before we begin. We have several of you, and we welcome you to Lake County, that are wishing to address the board tonight, and many are here to discuss the same topic: the relationship between our schools and law enforcement. We will make 3 minutes available to each of you, but I want to start by assuring you that our district has a long-standing cooperative relationship with law enforcement agencies here in Lake County, and we have strong community support for their presence in our schools. I'm sure you all know, after the massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida, the state imposed new safety requirements for all Florida public schools. But the funding for those requirements came up short. Our community, Lake County, felt so strongly about increasing safety in our schools that the taxpayers voted in favor of a .75 mil to cover the cost. We've used that money not just to place police officers, deputy, and guardians in our schools, but also to make sure that every school has a mental health liaison and a nurse. We hired more social workers and counselors. We created an alternative school for students with behavioral issues so they continue to get guidance and instruction, but in a smaller setting conducive to their needs. And we have implemented in-school programs that teach students how to resolve conflict without violence. In other words, we have taken a comprehensive, community-supported approach to school safety. We appreciate that partnership we have with our local law enforcement agencies and thank them for what they do to help keep our children safe. We remain open to any suggestions for how we can make our work better. So I'm looking forward to positive input from y'all, and we'll begin with the public input. So we'll start with David, is it Kisello? Okay, well then we'll wait. We'll wait. Oh, here he comes. Mr. Kisello? Mr. Kisello? You'll have 3 minutes if you'll give us your name and address for the record.
My name is David Caicedo, Caicedo, 134 East Colonial Drive. And I'm here to testify because a child experienced trauma here in Lake County. The week before you all received cultural sensitivity training, a black child received trauma. She was tased 3 times while attempting to retreat at Eustis High School. And that's 100% unacceptable. The fact that this individual is being taunted, praised as a hero when he actually abused and caused permanent damage to a child. Had it been a teacher, had it been a peer, had it been a parent, they would have faced severe consequences, where this person did not. My organization, the Florida Student Power Network, we have a list of demands that range from not actually pressing any charges and for all charges to be dropped against the student, for restorative justice practices to be implemented, for a revision of SRO policies in Lake County schools, for the rights of the students to protest to be respected, for the students' healing to be prioritized, because a traumatic act such as these, and I heard the doctors mentioning it on Monday's workshop meeting, actually causes permanent damage to children. So we need to prioritize the healing of both the child that received those tased who was tased right by the officer, and the children that witnessed it, because they're actually fearing for their lives right now. You have children in your county right now that are fearing to go back to the schools, who an abuser who has not been held accountable in the least is actually walking around freely while the child is being severely punished. Yeah. And this has to be, a change has to happen. We're here to testify because something has to change in Lake County. A county where we saw on January 6th busloads of folks at the Capitol in an insurrection did not get the same treatment that this child received. This was a child that we're talking about. In no way does any child ever deserve to be manhandled and then tased with a weapon and be like immobile. They don't deserve this. Children don't deserve this. And I will be following up with each of you. I will be following up with you, Superintendent, Chairman, District 4, District 2, District 3. You'll be hearing back from the Florida Student Power
Thank you
Network.
very much. May Hazelton? Mrs. Hazelton, you'll have 3 minutes if you give us your name and address.
Yes, my name is May Hazelton. My address is 2609 East Moonlight Lane in Eustis, Florida. The National Association of School Resource Officers, NASRO, the executive director, Mo Kennedy, says being an SRO is the most unique assignment in law enforcement. He goes on to say, officers that are going to be assigned in this particular field have got to be carefully selected. It's not for every officer. Most telling, he said, as a matter of fact, I might argue it's not for most officers. That's where we are today. In Florida, there is no statute or state-level rule regarding SRO certification to deal with our children. I have some questions related to the recent incident in Eustis. I believe this school board must answer. They are: does the Lake County Sheriff's Office require juvenile-specific training as part of their SRO training platform? If so, are parents advised of the type and length of training SROs receive? Does the training specifically address interaction with children who may have troubled backgrounds? Are the legal prerequisites for discharging a taser in an academic environment the exact same as they are in a non-academic environment for the use of force continuum used by police to counter threats against them and others? In other words, shouldn't we expect a school-based officer to be typically better experienced, better trained, better skilled in dealing with students and groups of juveniles than the regular street officer who has not had a daily exposure to school settings? What policies, procedures, and/or joint memoranda of understanding are in place between the school board and law enforcement regarding the use of force by SROs? And are parents provided a copy of this document? A recent investigation by the Orlando Sentinel found that the trend of declining in school arrests have reversed in several Central Florida counties, with Lake County posting a 5-year high for school-related arrests in 2018 and 19 school year. Did this trend decline or increase in 2020? These questions are critical, not only to beginning to understand what occurred recently, but to seeking to find if there are systematic underlying issues that we as a community must address and attempt to resolve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next is Tosh Paikuya. Tosh? It's P-Y-A-K-U, either G-A or Y-A. Oh, he's not going to speak. Oh, okay, thanks. And this one is I can't read the first name at all, but it's Villalata. Villata? Looks like I can't tell if that's an L word.
They can hear out in the waiting room as
They
well.
can?
I'm just wondering, would you like for me to walk out there and see if Mr.
No,
Carr
we
can?
got,
I think it's maybe Josiah. Bellotta? I think it's a V.
Josiah Villata? Yes.
I think I know what's happening. There's someone outside who's saying that his Second Amendment rights need to be respected. Who's in the building, who's making a social.
Can you go see if that's Mr. Yeah, please.
You see a large group of us leaving the room right now because someone inside is saying that their Second Amendment right needs to be respected, and folks feel threatened because he may have a weapon, he is inside the room.
You are safe here. You're safe here with us.
That's what the folks at the Capitol thought when there was a large group of people actually storming in with weapons. So we actually don't feel safe being in here. The individual has a vest. He
Oh my
has
gosh.
a
That's Mr.
mask in his face. If someone can search him to make sure that he doesn't have
Okay.
a weapon, if
We
someone
we
can-
feel very comfortable. We know who
Well-
you're speaking about. He speaks at a regular basis, and
Well, if
I
we
can
can
assure
assure
you,
that he does not have a weapon,
100% I can assure you.
well, if someone can actually assure that, yes.
Please,
You
Lieutenant.
can check to make
Okay.
sure that he doesn't have a weapon.
Lieutenant
Potentially, the
Meisick will
children
take care
can
of it.
come back.
You'll know him. Trust me.
We don't feel safe.
You're safe, sir. I promise you.
That's what they said at the Capitol.
Okay. This is Lake County.
Where, this is Lake County where a black child was tased.
Would you feel comfortable just having a seat there while you wait?
It's the whole group. There's a group of us that don't feel safe, so I need to just check in with them to make sure that they feel
Okay.
safe. If we can assure that he doesn't have a weapon.
Okay,
and
while
it's
we're,
not gonna hurt
then
someone.
what we're going to do is, we'll have Mr. Klatt, do you want to come and speak? And then we have virtuals also waiting, so we can fill in the gap.
All right. How you doing?
Good.
Stuart Klatt, President of Lake County Education Association. And just to kind of dovetail on Dr. Weiskopf, talked about the Black History Month resolution. Lake County has a interesting history. There was a gentleman named Julius Rosenwald, who was president of Sears and Roebuck,
Okay.
who partnered with Booker T. Washington in 1906 to 22, and he funded schools for African American students. And there are several here in Lake County. Some are still standing. Some of the buildings are still in use today. And I think it's an interesting history that we should be looking at and our students should be aware of, that the Rosenwald schools and their impact in Lake County, Florida. The other issue I want to talk about is Florida Education Association and our lobbying effort in the legislature. We're focusing on continuing the decade of progress that was made last year. Some of our goals and priorities, just to let you know, is to make sure we have adequate funding to fairly compensate all school employees, make sure students are safe in an ongoing pandemic, allowing qualified teachers to earn multi-year contracts. And I know the school board put that in the teacher's contract several years ago. The legislature took it away. So we're working with the legislature to add some clauses back in. And we're also working to allow locally elected school boards to have more control over our schools locally. Now, those are the good things. And as any legislature, there's always the bad. We're seeing an expansion of voucher bills, which will drain resources from public schools. We're seeing an attack on unions in general in Florida, expanding not only on teachers' unions for 50% membership, but also looking at ESP unions, also looking at taking individual freedom to join and remain a member in question. And also kind of an attack on Florida's retirement system by forcing all new employees to go into the investment fund, which over time will probably drain and dwindle the Florida retirement system, which is one of the strongest in the nation and well-funded as is. So I just wanted to bring you all up to date. Thank you for working with us on getting COVID vaccines for our teachers over 65, and we know we have follow-ups scheduled, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Klatt. If we can go ahead and get Mr. Serdar and get him on through, that'd be great.
I don't know if he's here. Is he?
No, they searched him.
That's not, I don't think it's him.
David Serdar, Fruitland Park, Florida. Do I need to say my address?
Yes, sir.
Oh, 66 Winter Green Drive, Fruitland Park, Florida, 34731. That just came from the
And
state
you
capitol.
have,
You know, my
you
dad,
have 3 minutes.
thank you, sir. You know, my dad was a principal, same school he went to as a child. You know, my Uncle Larry did that. Yeah, the Don, A.J. Katzenmeyer. I grew up with A.J. Katzenmeyer. He started at College of Lake County. It was a mega campus now, but it was the college last chance at one time. But my sister picked the college school. My dad, 36 years of love, the teachers loved him. But you know what? I'm the most like my Uncle Paul, the Illinois Racehorse Chairman. I'm very Christian. And choices, what kids can make, and drugs that are out there. You know, Senator Baxey has called me his buddy. I've been to Tallahassee, and I have. I'm worried about our kids' future, and I've been to joint administrative meetings. I've been to so many meetings you can't believe because, well, the COVID is number one. This too shall pass. Early learning and elementary education subcommittee, I was there with the chancellor. They're worried about who gets into kindergarten. You know, parents are having kids, and the parents aren't even watching their kids. And it's a different era. You know, I was in the state capitol. I'm at the Civic Center at Florida State University doing the other ones. You know, I'm a florist. Flower power, I love. Don't forget Valentine's Day. But civil justice and property rights, hey, you don't have to put public notices in the paper anymore. And Bradley Arnold, the county manager of Sumter County, came out just to see me. Are you aware? They have a space program, but we need more education for our kids' future. I've met Wilton Simpson and Brooks Timmons, the policymakers, getting hold of me. Are you aware that Escamani, a representative of Orlando Seminole County, has a twin sister? She does. And Governor DeSantis, he's running for re-election. What a great guy. You know, his wife, Casey, if you look up his website, and you can look up Senate President and the House Speaker, you'll see committee meetings, calendars, and what people are doing. I'm working directly with Chris Wald's office. You know, I used to have a job at Leesburg High School. I'd love to get my job back. You know, I would. I need the money. I'm sleeping in my car in Tallahassee. I got a tire problem. But you know, I stopped at Lenny Curry's office. I stopped at sheriff's offices. Mike Williams is up there. I've been to St. Augustine. January 28th, when I was in a joint procedure meeting with 5 senators, 5 representatives, and a staff member, Ken Platt, of the governor's office. Well, executive order's been out. Any bill that's been sunsetted must be looked at within 5 years. In the papers the next day in St. Augustine, I saw the same Jacksonville Union headlines, education, environment, number 1. Well, COVID's number 1. It's out there, but that too shall pass because you are the leaders that'll take care of things. You know, our education is so important. I know people that don't want to go
Mr. Serdar, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Take care. Now, I'm not sure who's here or who's not. We'll give just a minute. We'll go to some Zoom. We have, how many
He
do we
said
have?
there's one person here.
Oh, we only have one person?
In the lobby.
Okay, they can, who's out there? Okay, he can come in now.
They are calling me a statesman environmentalist.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Up in Tallahassee,
Thank you very much.
our state capital.
Mr. Robinson? You can come to the microphone.
Thank you.
But just one sec. We'll let him,
I'm gone.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Robinson, if you'll state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name is Matthew Robinson. I live in Tavares. I don't want to give you my specific address, obviously, because of the people that are in the room that are from out of town, and they're from an organisation that is from out of town that come to dox people here. They've been shipped in, and the notification was put out to the ACLU to bring them up here. They are not from Lake County. I am the father of, so for my own personal safety and security, there wasn't any threat. I allowed a police officer to check me for firearms outside. I came here to obviously share with you guys my point of view on what's happened. I am wearing a vest. That vest was for my safety. So, being the father of a Lake County student and being the father of a future Lake County student, the idea is absolutely diabolical that we would even entertain the idea of removing law enforcement from our schools in Lake County. Peyton Grinnell and his police force, his sheriff's office here in Lake County are the real deal. Them men put themselves in the line of fire every single day for every single student here in Lake County. And quite frankly, I think that the idea that anybody would question on the narrative that's always pushed, the very slim video that makes it look like a law enforcement officer was at fault is terrible. This country is going to hell in a handbasket because you're tried and convicted by videos that are edited and that make law enforcement look like they're in the wrong. It is the most difficult job. And what we need to do is we need to remember, we need to start looking after the people that look after us. We need to consider them, we need to hear them, we need to value their opinions, because every single day they put their lives on the line for us. For every person in this room, we come here, I am a constitutional conservative. I believe in the right for everybody to have every single right that is afforded to them under the Constitution, no matter whether or not you agree with me or if you don't. As a constitutional conservative, I fight for everybody's right for free speech. The people that I will disagree with in this room, I fight for their right for free speech. So them coming from out of town when they're not from here, I find that repulsive. They're coming here and it's purely and simply to throw a wrench in the works from a sheriff's department that takes care of every single student and teacher, every faculty member, down to the janitors in the Lake County school system. That's what I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So I don't know who's here and who isn't. Ma'am? Ma'am? Did you want to speak? Yes, I did. What's your name? Ariana Brown. Okay. Mrs. Brown, come on up. Mrs. Brown, if you'll give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Ariana Brown. I live at 9624 Seaview Drive, apartment 206, Leesburg, Florida, 34788. I was a former student. Well, I am a student at the college, and I do not think that police officers should be allowed on our school campuses at all. And not only because of the fact that a grown man was allowed to tase a student, but because of the way they make our students feel. As a student, I would not want to be followed. I would not want to be seen or next to an officer with any kind of weapon. If they were put there because of February 14, 2018, because of a shooting, why should they be allowed to carry the same weapons that we fear? Why should they be allowed to threaten us and give us looks? And by us, I mean people of color. Because let it have been another person, or let it have been a white child, that we would not be in this situation right now. That man would have been fired. And I understand this is Lake County, and we have our laws, and we have great law enforcement. I understand that. I'm glad you guys think that. But the fact that that man actually stood up here and said that we should have those people, we should have those people here to walk around where I'm scared to go to school, and where that girl now has to go back to school and be around that same man that tased her, that's not fair. That should not be allowed anywhere, especially not in Lake County. Not here, where we have children that can grow up to be presidents, children that can grow up and to be great things, but are stopped because we have people walking around with guns and looking at us crazy. Like, that's not right. I understand that this man was allowed to come and understand why you guys put police officers in our schools, but now we have a reason why you need to take them out, because obviously we can't trust them to do their jobs correctly. There's a different way he could have approached that girl. And until she's being punished, so he needs to be punished also. She shouldn't even be punished when she was defending herself. He has weapons on him that he should not have been allowed to use to defend himself against a girl, a young child. I am 18. I would not want a grown man to tase me, to stop me from fighting or to calm me down. That's not how you calm someone down. That's how you anger them up more and not help them in the future. I was also a student once. I did some bad things. I was suspended. I was doing all kinds of stuff when I was younger and in high school. But now I'm an adult because I was trained, and not trained, but I was taught and I was allowed to grow up and learn from my mistakes. And now she doesn't even have that chance because y'all didn't teach her how it is in the real world if that were to happen.
You're at 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Thanks for speaking. Okay, we have some Zoom,
Yes.
so we'll take,
I think you have another one, you have another.
oh, do we have one more person? Oh, I'm sorry. What is your name, ma'am? Oh, you're right on top. Okay. If you would give us your name and address.
Cassandra Brown, 9624 Seaview Drive, Leesburg, Florida.
Looks like you're related. Your daughter did an amazing job.
Thank you. Yes, that's my daughter, one of my daughters. So, child abuse by anyone's hands is still child abuse. I speak as a mother of 2 black daughters and 2 black sons. It does not matter that they are taller, and you can see she's way bigger than me. You still do not tase children, regardless. They are still my baby girls. My heart breaks when I see that video of that young lady being tased, because all I can think about is one of my baby girls being tased. I've heard different excuses about the size of the child, her past behaviors. For me, none of that is relevant. She's still someone's baby girl. She was tased. She had a weapon used against her. She was violently attacked, and that is unacceptable in Lake County schools. I was a substitute teacher in Lake County schools for over 6 years, and I would be traumatized to see a child being tased in our schools. Again, that is unacceptable. I appreciate the comments at the beginning, letting us know that you all have taken steps to make sure that there are nurses in the schools and school counselors, because that is one thing that we've seen stats where the police officers are more than the school nurses and things. So we thank you for taking those steps. But I ask each parent here today, is there anything that your child could have done that you would feel an officer would be justified in tasing your child? I can't think of anything. This child didn't even have a weapon on her. So I just could not imagine my child being tased again. The SRO did not seem to have the proper training on de-escalating these types of situations. What I saw was an adult male in a full-fledged physical altercation with a 15-year-old child, a 15-year-old girl. And I know you look at her and you see she's this big girl and this, that, the other. She is still a child. And no adult should be in a full-fledged, rolling around on the ground, standing up, fighting, or whatever, altercation with a child. It is unacceptable. There is no place in our schools for power struggles between adult SROs and children who they are there to protect. I'm hearing that she had behavioral issues, and I'm hoping that we can utilize those resources that you placed in the schools to help her with those issues. And I'm hoping that the funding will go, like you said, towards the nurses and the counselors versus the SROs, or even so, more funding to train the SROs on diversity training and culture, how to deal with other cultures.
Mrs. Brown, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you so much.
And you can be assured we are getting her help.
You want to just make sure that there's no others.
Okay, are there any other folks in the room? Yes, sir. Your name?
Michael Watkins.
He has to have a sheet.
I'm not on the list. I didn't know I had to sign.
Come on up. If you'll give us your name and address, and you'll name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, Pastor Michael Watkins. I live at 805 Summerall Avenue in Tavares. And, you know, I'm here for all concerned, the parents, the students, the teachers and staff, and our officers. We want what's best for all of them. And there's been quite a few questions and points made to you all tonight that I think that we need to have some type of forum where the information, like what you read at the beginning, I think people in our community needs to hear that. I think there's things that the officers have protocol, the teachers have protocol. You know, we need to know what was the original intention of the officers being on the campus. Is the officers the best ones to handle when kids are fighting? I think we need some type of way where we can get people together and talk sensibly like we're talking now and let people hear, you know, what is the rules, you know, what is the protocol, what's the purpose of these officers, and so that we could work together as a community. Because I'm sure all of us want our kids to leave home and come home safe and not hurt. And I know the officers want to leave home and come home safe, and same thing with the teachers. But there is a problem, and we don't want to see issues where there's problems at our schools. I know there's going to be problems, but a kid, you know, getting tased, you know, what's the limit? You know, what has to happen before that happens? And I think the officers deserve to be able to share their side, but as concerned parents, we're concerned as well. So I sure hope we can come to some kind of understanding where the community is informed on why you do what you do, what's the reason why you're doing it, and making sure that the kids who are having some troubles, that they get the help that they need. So I please ask you, don't just hear what we're saying here and then y'all make decisions about it and the community does not know. Parents do not know what decisions have been made, because I think it'll be helpful for all of us to be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Do we have anyone else physically here? You have two? Late arrivals? Okay, well then they're going to need to wait because we had some Zoom folks that have been waiting for a while. So just tell them to stand by.
Do
Okay.
you already have a sheet on him?
I don't know who's here, who's in the Zoom. No.
Oh, he has about 5, so Scott will just have to let.
Mr. Ward,
Yes, sir.
can we begin to let those that are
Yes,
waiting in
sir.
Zoom?
Our first speaker will be Travion Telfair.
Okay. Sir. He's connecting. Mr. Telfair, if you can hear me, you're connecting. Hello? This is a perfect internet commercial. Okay, doesn't seem to be connecting. Let's let him stay and try and connect, but let's go to number 2.
Okay, the next person as speaker would be Sam Boyd.
Okay. Mr. Boyd, your mute is on. Yep. If you'll state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Sam Boyd. It's 2 Biscayne Boulevard, Miami, Florida. My name is Sam Boyd. I'm a senior staff attorney in the Children's Rights Practice Group at the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm speaking here today at the request of the youth advocates who are urging the school district to take action to protect Lake County students, especially Black girls, from violence at the hands of school resource officers. They have asked SPLC to explain what school districts like Lake County can and cannot do under Florida law to limit the harms caused by excessive policing of school campuses. Under Florida statute section 1006.12, each school must have one of four kinds of safe school officer: school police officers, SROs, school staff members who receive certain training, or licensed security guards. There is therefore no requirement of police in public schools in Florida. Moreover, even if the district chooses to use law enforcement to fulfill the safe school officer requirement, nothing in the statute or other Florida law requires more than one safe school officer at any school, requires that safe school officers be armed, or limits how school boards may regulate or limit interactions between students and police officers in the interest of student protection. And that's a particularly important issue, I think, in light of what some of the other folks have said today. As the pastor suggested, districts could bar SROs from using force or restraint except to prevent imminent serious bodily harm to students or others. That does not and should not mean that every schoolyard scuffle, shoving match, or argument, and it certainly would not apply to a student who's retreating from physical altercation. To the contrary, under existing law, serious bodily harm means a physical condition that creates a substantial risk of death, serious personal disfigurement, or protracted loss or impairment of the function of a bodily member or organ. An agreement limiting the role of SROs could also limit arrest to situations where there's an imminent risk of serious bodily harm. It could bar SROs from interacting with students or limit them to perimeter security and intervention in emergency circumstances. And it could bar SROs from enforcing student codes of conduct and participating in student discipline. In addition, the district has the power to collect and analyze data to understand which students in its schools are most targeted for arrest, out-of-school discipline, restraint, and physical violence. It's particularly important to do that to ensure that every student is protected, as a number of speakers today have urged. And the district can also examine its policies to stop racially discriminatory practices that harm students with disabilities and Black, Indigenous, and other students of color. The district has the legal tools that it needs to keep its students safe from violence or involvement in the criminal justice system. We urge the school district to use these solutions and others in partnership with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Okay, Mr. Telfair, are you on with us now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir. If you'll give your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Trevion Telfair. My address is 2120 Preston Lane, Kissimmee, Florida. I am currently a student in Osceola County that goes to Liberty High School. And there's been an accident recently where a girl got slammed by a deputy on our campus. And watching this and looking at what happened on my campus at my school, it was wrong. There should have been a different way that officer should have handled that situation. How many times are we going to keep putting our kids at risk by police in schools? How many times is it going to take for us to keep complaining until one officer make one sudden move, and unfortunately, we have lost a student? We are tired of having these same conversations, letting the board know that there's change in our schools that need to be made because law enforcement is hurting our kids in schools. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ward, next. Ms. Nush, welcome. You'll have 3 minutes. Please give us your full name and address. And you're on mute. There we go.
Hello, my name is Nusrat Noor. I live in 424 Highbrook Boulevard, Ocoee, Florida. So in November 2019, an Orange County SRO was called to address a group of students fighting near Westridge Middle School. He responded to the scene by grabbing 13-year-old Wilmaka Edmonds' hair and yanking it backwards. After detaining Wilmucca, this is how he addressed the crowd responding to his use of force. This is because you are silly. You are all silly, stupid children. Stupid little children is what you are. This past January, we saw an Osceola County SRO slam 16-year-old Taylor Bracey to the ground, leaving her unconscious. In the same week, video surfaced of a Lake County SRO using a taser on a female student in the Eustis High School cafeteria. All these instances are irredeemable in the year following one of the biggest movements to end police brutality against Black Americans that the country has ever seen. The ACLU says that police presence in schools increases the frequency of school-based arrest, mostly for nonviolent offenses and disproportionately aimed towards students of color. And yet, counties across the state have kept and even expanded police budgets for their schools while neglecting the resources that students and teachers truly need. In 2020, the ACLU also found that for the first time ever, there were more police officers working in Florida schools at nearly 3,650 than school nurses at only 2,286. Fact of the matter is, Black and brown students have a very different experience with SROs than other students. Your children may feel protected with law enforcement roaming school halls, but for students of color, SROs are a reminder of how dangerous it is to be Black in America. In what world can police calmly escort white supremacists out of our nation's capital while 6-year-olds are put in zip ties for throwing temper tantrums in classrooms? Police in schools offer nothing more than a direct funnel into the school-to-prison pipeline. They are bullies who use brutality to address discipline, public health, and social service issues that they themselves are not equipped to handle. We demand that you fire the Lake County officer involved in this assault and guarantee that he will not work as an SRO elsewhere, that the police be removed from Lake County Public Schools, that the students be supported and not penalized in instances of police brutality, and that Lake County invest in restorative justice, social services, and counseling for its students with the funds that would have gone to policing. Police do not belong in schools, and the data is clear. You either believe the facts or you don't. You either care for all your students or you resign. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ward, next.
The next speaker is Tristeza Ordex.
Mrs. Ordex, if you'll please give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, and you're on mute.
A direct funnel into the school-to-prison pipeline. They are bullies who use brutality to address discipline.
What is
I
that?
apologize for that. I was listening.
We have a technical issue.
Oh, okay. No, she was listening, so I guess there's a delay. Yep, okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. Tristeza Ordex, and I reside in Orlando, Florida. So once again, during the pandemic, members of the community are coming together to address an issue that should not be occurring, especially in our schools. And to add to this abuse, a person in the lobby spoke boisterously about their Second Amendment rights as to intimidate students that have come out there to address this issue and community organizers from speaking their truth. So I'm going to jump right into it. It seems as though when addressing systemic issues, the standard of elected officials is good enough. The school board is supposed to protect our students, and that's a given, but it's not happening because you're creating these pipelines to institutions that pack themselves with our most vulnerable students. So we have the student to prison pipeline and the student to military pipeline. And the manner by which we should be beginning to resolve these issues is by removing SRO officers and military recruiters from our schools. Neither one should have access to our children when they're on campus. And I say this as a Marine Corps veteran who has served this country, that they should not have access to my son. You all aren't only responsible to the parents, but also to the students that you all have sworn to protect. And it's your responsibility to protect every student within your district from abuse and exploitation. And that's exactly what these two groups do. We're done accepting crumbs from the individuals who the people elect. And if you don't want to meet the responsibilities of the oath that you took, mark my words, we will replace you.
Thank you very much. Next.
And the next person is Cheryl Jose.
Mrs. Jose, Mrs. Jose, if you will please give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. And right now you're on mute. You're still on mute. Okay, you're live.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Joseph. My address is 19201 Morgan Horse Road, Groveland, Florida. I'm a record specialist in the Curriculum Instruction Assessment Department for Lake County Schools. I am also co-founder of Fight for Zero, which is a nonprofit environmental advocacy group. Fight for Zero strives for zero pollution to protect children's health in vulnerable populations by empowering people with education and science. This gives communities a voice in what is happening. I come to this board with serious concerns in regards to item 8.05 on tonight's agenda, listed as Department of Environmental Acceptance Form, which is a request to pay $2,050 to the Florida DEP, costs the district incurred as a result of civil penalties and investigation costs related to Lake County Schools' failure to monitor disinfection byproducts during August 2020 and conduct July through September 2020 monitoring of synthetic organic compound Dalapon at Asatula Elementary School. Dalapon is an organochlorine herbicide that has a high potential for bioaccumulation in the body. This isn't the first incidence of our schools' drinking water not being monitored as required. In 2016, yet another instance of failure to monitor for the first and second quarter monitoring of radionuclides, which include gross alpha, radon, uranium, radium-228, were missed at 5 elementary schools: Asatula, Altoona, Round Lake, Spring Creek, and Seminole Springs. As you may recall, in 2016, the Mosaic sinkhole opened up in Polk County, spilling hundreds of millions of gallons of radioactive waste went into Florida's aquifer. That was surely a year that the monitoring should not have been missed. Parents send their children to school and expect them to be safe. Teachers and staff come to school every day with the expectation that they will also be safe. Tonight, it is my hope that this board will address the issue of the wells not being tested in accordance with Florida DEP and state laws. And how can parents and employees be assured that the water that they are drinking at our schools is safe? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ward, next.
Chairman Class, that is all that I had on my list.
Okay, I think we have, okay, thank you very much. I think we have 2 more. Okay, Mrs. Hafiz?
Yes.
I got 1 right. You're the first one out of the dozen. Okay, if you'll give your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
All right. My name is Sana Hafiz. I'm with Orlando Dream Defenders. I live in Central Florida, Orlando, Florida. We know that educators are overburdened. We know that many students have specific difficulties, not because they're bad kids, but because they have insurmountable obstacles each day and inadequate resources. However, the solutions to these issues are not in student resource officers. Solutions lie in addressing the underlying issues of inequality due to racism and socioeconomic status. It lies in taking mental health seriously, which extends far beyond giving kids therapy and telling them not to make bad choices. addressing the environmental causes of these issues will undoubtedly reduce the undue burden on educators. Today, I'd like to focus on why SROs cannot be reformed and why they should be removed from schools completely. Student resource officers brutalize students of color at a disproportionate rate. Black and brown children are statistically seen as older, more aggressive, and therefore more of a threat based off of implicit bias studies. We know that students of color are statistically given harsher penalties and far more often. We know that alternative nonviolent methods are more often used with non-Black students. These repeated instances of violence against children of color is inexcusable. If a daycare used the same methods because a child was misbehaving, they would be in jail. They would be forced to close their business. Parents would not trust their children with babysitters if they knew that it was a possibility that they could be tased for acting like a child. This is the reality that you force parents of color to grapple with every day when trying to ensure their children get a proper education. I ask you to repeal the Florida state law requiring at least one SRO to be present at every school. We're asking you to remove one of the first steps in the archaic school-to-prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that all?
One more.
Do we have one more now? Okay. Okay. Before we move on, I'd like to ask Sergeant Jones if you'd come to the podium. I had the honor to train as part of the Guardian program, right? And amazing. So you've had an opportunity to sit and listen. If you just wanted to give some thoughts.
Yeah. One of the things I would like to address is they talked about the training that we do as school resource officers. And we do have more training when it comes to de-escalation, school resource deputies do, than any other group of law enforcement officers at the sheriff's office. School resource deputies have to take 40 hours of basic school resource officer. In that class, they are taught by therapists, they're taught by psychologists, they learn about juvenile behavior, the different types of behavior problems they will have to address, and how to de-escalate those problems. As a whole, they go through crisis intervention training, where they learn how to de-escalate students with problems, and that's a 40-hour training that in itself. And then we teach what's called racial intelligence training and engagement, where we talk about how to look at ourselves, where we are emotionally, before we address anyone else. And so we do get more training probably than any other county in the state of Florida. And we were the first ones, and one of the only ones that have the right training. I was a school resource deputy for 10 years, so this hits home with me. Today, high school, school resource deputies, just at high school, they had to watch over 15,000 students. This is on a daily basis. The deputy at that school, he's broken up a lot of fights prior to that incident on January 26th. I won't go on trial with what happened and go through everything that happened there, but that time was different. I, as a parent of a girl who looked just like that girl in that incident, would not allow a deputy to stay employed, because I'm also the internal affairs sergeant. I would not allow someone to stay employed that I feel brutalizes children. I could bring in thousands of kids, black, white, brown, who can talk about the positive relationships, the positive impact that school resource deputies have had on their lives. We have those who are black and brown who now work for us, and I was their school resource deputy, as well as other school resource deputies. To even entertain the thought of taking school resource deputies out of schools, we're not talking about just the safety of it. We're talking about what they provide. We've talked about deputies that have talked kids out of committing suicide. We talk about deputies who've given them guidance when they don't have their parents at home. This is what we're talking about. And I will leave you with this right here. The young lady that we're talking about, that next day, she called for that deputy twice in an attempt to apologize to him for what she had done. When she was escorted to the office, she apologized to him over and over. I'm sorry, did I hurt your face? I actually like you, I'm sorry. But that is something that we don't always get. We've been doing this for over a decade in the schools. And that was an incident that the deputy had no alternative but to do that. He did try verbal de-escalation. He did try to physically restrain her, but that didn't work. And I'm hoping this is the last time we have this kind of conversation, but it's important to keep us in the schools.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. And thank you for all y'all do. Okay. With that, we'll move on to reports. The Education Foundation, we have Mrs. Carmen Cullen-Beth. Carmen, you're on mute. Carmen, you're still on mute. Now you're not on mute.
Okay.
Now
Thank
you're
you.
live.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman, School Board. Apple Mart has had 593 visitors, and we've distributed over $45,000. We had some exciting news from Advent Health this week, and that they have some excess 8-ounce hand sanitizers, and they are sending the district 2 pallets of hand sanitizers, which will be distributed directly at school sites and through Apple Mart. Disney has notified us that they have thousands of graphic T-shirts that they'll be sending to us for distribution. The majority of them for girls, but we'll be getting those distributed through the schools. We have the $1,000 that we received at the last school board meeting from the Festival of Trees from the mall. And RFP has gone out to the 22 schools that participated, asking them to fill out a funding request. And our visioning committee will be vetting those and awarding those funds. And this week, that same committee is vetting our second round matching grants. We have about $12,000 left. However, we did have $32,000 in request from the various schools. Our skeet shoot, which was sold out and scheduled for the 26th of February, has been canceled because there is no ammunition. The Hall of Fame, I'm working with the communications department. We have scheduled a small luncheon for the 21st of February, or excuse me, of April, to honor the incoming Hall of Fame nominees for Lake County School. We are also working with our school-related and our rookie teachers to do a combined event on the 10th of March, which will be broadcast live. And our board welcomed Elise Morris from Ernie Morris to join our board back in January. And our next board meeting is scheduled for February the 24th at noon on Zoom. Are there any questions?
Questions? No, thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, attorney's report?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. Received a letter back from the Attorney General, actually received a letter back from the Senior Assistant Attorney General regarding our policy for the use of electronic media technology for board meetings. Essentially, what they said was that since we already tried to solve the problem in the interim by passing the emergency ordinance followed by the regular ordinance that we had enacted into policy, hoping that the Attorney General would give us an opinion so we would be covered for that time. Because we did that, they're declining to give us an opinion because we tried to solve it ourselves. So, what I will do is go back and take a look at our policy. I mean, these policies have been changed in some other counties in the state already too. We want to take a look at, make sure we're consistent with the others who are going down the same road or doing, and probably come back with some minor revision to the existing policy that we have in order to be able to be in a position to defend it if anyone raises an issue about it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
The other thing, though, I did want to tell you, contrary to what one of the speakers said this evening, you do not have the authority to repeal any Florida statutes, so I prefer you didn't try to do that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because we were going to be all
Unfortunately,
over.
'cause I wrote down
There are
about
several
Right.
before this one that we would have been working on. Okay. Dr. Felder?
Any unfinished, there's no unfinished business, correct?
Right.
I recommend approval of the consent agenda. So I should say
You have to say the numbers.
8.01. To 10.02.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0.
Could I just say, I don't think we have the people right now to look into the question about the wells, but I will look into that and I can report back what I find out, because I don't actually know the details of what exactly happened and who exactly is in charge. So I can find that out and I can report back at the next meeting for, I missed her name, but for the lady who asked. So,
Okay, well done.
okay.
Okay, so we're all the way down to Superintendent Report.
Yes, we have a few letters of condolence. This evening, we have Marie Griffin, mother of Vita Barr, program specialist for Region 3. Peter Ortiz, the husband of Kelly Ortiz, who's a teacher assistant at Lake Hills. And Freddie Molarski, a retired teacher this evening. I also have a couple of announcements. I wanted to announce that we're very excited that our second dose of the COVID vaccine will be administered to eligible employees on Monday, February 15th. And this is only for those employees who received their first dose with us last month. Those eligible employees received a phone call and an email this afternoon with all the details. And so we look forward to completing this vaccination cycle and hope we'll be able to expand it to additional employees in the near future. I also want to remind families that we kicked off Educational Choice Open Enrollment this month. And so we are now accepting applications from families who want to transfer their children to a school outside of their attendance boundary for next year. And so you can find a list and all the information that you need to know on our website. Along with Black History Month, it is also National CTE Month, a time when we highlight our career and technical education programs. And so we'd like to encourage all students to take advantage of those opportunities to get certified in some high demand areas. So look for those CTE highlights on our social media pages throughout the month. And last, I'm very excited. We launched our Let's Talk, which is a new communications platform about a month ago. And via the superintendent, we asked Sherry Owens, our communications officer, to give us a brief update on how that's been going.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as Dr. Feltner said, we did launch Let's Talk about 3 weeks ago. We had announcements on social media and on our website and an article in the Daily Commercial, all inviting the public to use this new cloud-based platform as a convenient way to engage with us. I have a few slides. I promise this is like 3 minutes. I know we've been here a while. But prior to Let's Talk, it could be difficult for parents and others in the community to know who to contact for specific information. So sometimes those calls would go to a main desk and be bounced around a little bit, a time or two before landing with the appropriate person who could accurately provide the information that the person was seeking. So now it's much easier for stakeholders to choose a topic, type in their information, and immediately get it to the right person. And I think if you've not tried it, you'll find that it's a very user-friendly tool. So you can get to Let's Talk from the web page. There's a red tab on the side, as you see with the arrow there, that says Let's Talk, or you can just click the Contact Us tab up at the top. That will take you to a page where you can click an interest topic, next slide, such as COVID-19 or public records, employment. The next slide will show you some of those other topics that are available, things like food service or VPK, school board, payroll, just a number of topics that are there. Now that red tab, next slide, the red tab that I showed you is just a shortcut. It has a drop-down menu that has those same topics listed. But either way, clicking that will take you to a form, next slide, where you can submit a question, a comment, a suggestion, a concern, or a compliment. Those are welcome too. Each of those interest topics that I showed you has an owner. So when you click that interest topic, you fill out this form, it immediately goes to the person who is best equipped to give you an answer or to address your concern. Staff's response, as well as the time it takes for us to give a response, is recorded in the tool. And the tool also provides analytics to help us track the types of questions that are being asked most frequently so we can spot and address trends before they become bigger areas of concern. The next slide shows you that our top 5 interest areas so far have been employment, COVID-19, payroll, public records, and school choice. The next slide shows you that we've received 115 dialogues in the last 3 weeks, and we have received an average customer feedback score of 9.3 out of 10. 15 people have responded to say that their engagement with us has been positive. We had 1 negative experience, but that person was upset because she didn't like the information we provided. She was eager to know when the next dose of the vaccine was going to be given, and we didn't have an answer at the time, and she was unhappy with our response. It usually takes us less than a day to respond to people, as you can see by the average dialogue age that's shown there is 0.6, and we have no unresolved critical dialogues lingering. We do, as of this morning, however, have 3 dialogues that were marked as overdue. And that means that they've remained open longer than what is normal for us. So I looked at those 3, and in all 3 instances, we had responded with a question to get more clarity. And so those dialogues remain open while we wait for those people to get back with us so that we can answer their question. So there's been a little bit of a learning curve for us, but everyone's catching on quickly, and I think we're off to a good start.
Well done.
Are there any questions?
This also sends an email to the people asking them their experience.
Yes.
Correct? I think that's amazing.
Yes, it does. And so not everybody responds, but out of the people who did respond, we've got a 9.3 average so far out of 10.
That's
So
outstanding.
we're doing really well.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
I applaud the innovation. You know, I can't count how many emails I've received over the last number of years of the person contacting just because they don't know where to direct the question. So it looks like this kind of solves that problem. So.
Sure.
And it does away with us.
Well, not entirely.
Yeah, just part of the job, which is great. It's nice. I think it's great.
Okay, we're at board member comments, and Dr. Burns.
I don't have a lot. I was thanking people last time, and I think the time before, for getting the shots, and I forgot Sean Parks every time. And I know Sean has been heavily involved in making sure that our 65-plus employees and were able to actually get appointments. And that was huge, and I wanted to say thank you. And I know that the county commission was involved in it also with their new website. I wanted to say that, gosh, there's a lot that could be said, but I'll stick just with the fact that we did have our own courageous conversations around race and at the last workshop, and I found that to be really challenging, much more challenging than I expected. So I just wanted to say to all the teachers and the staff members, I'm not sure at what level everyone's working at, I'm not sure. I think in some schools it's just the leadership teams that are working on it now, but as teachers get to it, this is hard work, and it's good work. And as much as I need to learn, I'm sure that everyone has plenty to work on and work through. And I think that, I hope that that will lead us to a better place in the district. And I really do think it will. I think that that's the work that is really desperately important right now. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was that if you listen to DeSantis, he's really running. People keep asking me, when will less than 65 teachers be approved? And it's very obvious that he's either gonna run or is running on that he is gonna get 65 plus people vaccinated. And so I think what we have done as a board is absolutely fabulous. But I would ask the public, especially teachers, write the governor, and write your congresspeople and say we should be included in the next phase, because I don't think we're gonna get teachers in the 65 plus phase, but I think that we might move to the next phase somewhat soon. And we want our teachers in that phase. So that's, I think, the goal. So please write the governor and and your senators, your local congressmen and senators for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burns. Mr. Dodd?
Yes, well, when it comes to education, sometimes it's hard to find good news coming out of Tallahassee, but I guess I've been a little bit encouraged by watching some of the dialogue begin to unfold about state testing, and I'm just hopeful that the legislators and powers that be will feel enough pressure from as many educators that have experience in this field to make the smart decisions and remove those high stakes associated with the testing this year, recognizing that we have students learning in all sorts of various platforms, and certainly they're not all created equal. Also, one item that just to sheer enjoyment, I had a chance to partake in a little bit of science fair judging this week within our elementary world, and I always am blown away by the curiosity that our kids get a chance to showcase in their science projects, and this year was no exception. I saw some very outstanding projects, and congratulations to all those that participated in that. I believe the award ceremony is going to air tomorrow, and I guess they're going to get some information about how to watch that, certainly another dose of innovation from our curriculum department to be able to put together a virtual science fair this year, and very well done, I got to say. And,
I agree.
it's great work.
Good evening. I, first of all, would like to say that I have been associated with Lake County Schools for almost 4 decades now. I started very young. But the one thing that I can truthfully say is that during my tenure here, we have always found that we had very caring and concerned people, starting with our board on down to all members of our organization. While I greatly appreciate the public input tonight, I think I am very reasonable in assuring all those people with concerns that Lake County Schools truly does care about all students. I can tell you that it is important to each of us who sit here that we vote appropriately, that we consider the facts, and that we make decisions that are based on truly what is good for the children. So if there's any doubt on any person's mind out there in audience land, I would ask that you please remember that those of us that sit on this board did not take this undertaking lightly. We truly believe in those things we swore to uphold. And with that said, I will tell you that in settling into my new position as a board member, I have started to attend some of my many committee member meetings. And I've had the opportunity to go to the Lake County Commission Action Committee meeting, and I found that to be extremely enlightening. I'm starting to discover all the things about many things that I did not know, but I'm going to be well-rounded and very well educated in a few months. I have also attended a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, and that too, I learned about every single trail in Lake, Seminole, Orange, Osceola County, and I am now a quasi-expert. So with that said, I'd like to wish for all of you a pleasant rest of the week, and I guess I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Mrs. Luke?
I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Burns and Mrs. Cunningham have said in regards to the district. It was very convicting for me this week to know that the conversation was going to unfold around the incidents that happened at Eustis High School, and for the community to know also that it's a personal experience for me as well, because my daughter was in the cafeteria when it happened. And so to have a firsthand account from a very mature young lady who was scared, and she was not just scared for the students, she was also very scared for the officer that was involved. So when we speak about these things and knowing the nation and the state of the nation and the traction that the movement on social injustice is making, I feel like it's very irresponsible to come forward and portray events without the truth and without being accurate. And there were several statements made tonight by individuals that were very well intended. They were inaccurate and painted a picture that was different than what happened in the cafeteria. And so I appreciate Sergeant Jones being here tonight to be able to speak to that incident and the relationship that the officer had with the student, that the students were also aware of, that existed, and that the students are concerned for the relationship and the impression that was left on social media. So I'm going to go back to the statements that I made last week in our courageous conversations about teaching our children the importance of not blindly following what they see on the internet, and how inept a job we are doing in our media portrayal of events that are happening in our society to perpetuate very, very important and real conversations that we need to be having. And so I would like for us to definitely continue the conversation with how we impart those truths upon our youth, that you have to have beliefs that are grounded in facts, and show up. And thank you for coming to speak. And it's so nice to see young people there. But let's teach them how to eliminate fake news and incite some of the things that we have seen in this nation and be responsible with the information that's given to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Luke. I also want to recognize Lieutenant Meisinger. Lieutenant Meisinger has the responsibility of coordination, and I'm very grateful for you being here, and Sergeant Jones, because you made an impact on my life through going through the Guardian program, and I think that it was very meaningful to have you both here.